Voters in San Francisco recently passed a law that would tax landlords up to $20,000 per year for each vacant unit. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting update to an article that I covered a while back about this proposed vacancy tax in the city of San Francisco. Basically, the tax proposed, what they thought was, hey, we've got a whole bunch of these vacant units all over town where landlords are keeping units vacant for some reason. And it's not right, especially when there's this housing shortage and housing is so expensive and there's all these homeless people. So we're going to penalize, we're going to attack those landlords, by penalizing them for keeping them vacant. And so, they threw it on the ballot, and guess what? It passed. Not a surprise. I'm never surprised when I hear anti-landlord legislation being passed in a place like San Francisco, okay? It is one of those places where, you really have to have your stuff together in order to be, investing there or thinking that, being a landlord is easy there, because it's not. It's very difficult to be a landlord in a place like San Francisco. So, yeah, this law, it's insane, okay, because the tax can go up to as much as $20,000 per unit that you're keeping vacant. And the only people this sort of tax is really going to hurt are going to be small mom and pop landlords who can't figure out ways around the law, okay? And then they get caught up in this web of garbage, and it's awful. It's absolutely awful. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the law. I'm gonna do a quick synopsis of the law. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Okay. Here's the question of the day: do you believe that this sort of vacancy tax will actually have any effect on the affordability of housing in a place like San Francisco, or the amount of homelessness in a place like San Francisco? Okay, I don't. Okay, my personal belief is that this is just a cash grab from landlords, and they're going to use it to pay for more bureaucracy. Okay, so I don't think this is going to help anything, and it's pretty obvious to me that they're not going to be able to raise as much money as they think they're going to be able to raise. But the people who are caught up in it are going to get penalized heavily. So this article, the first article I'm going to read, and I got a couple of them. The first one is coming from the San Francisco Standard.com, and it says, "Vacant homes tax passes. Fate of school board candidate Ann Sue uncertain." And I'm not going to talk about the school board candidate. I'm just going to skip right down to the part about the vacant home tax, because that's what's important to us. Okay, Propositions L and M will pass according to new vote tallies released by the San Francisco Department of Elections this afternoon. 80% of local ballots in the November 8th election have now been counted. Proposition L is a sales tax increase for city transit projects that requires 2/3 of the vote to pass. Proposition M is a landlord tax on empty homes, whose most vocal proponent was Supervisor Dean Preston, right? And yeah, so basically this article is just saying, hey, this is going to pass, okay? This has passed, right? And just in case you're wondering what exactly this Proposition M was, right? I have another article also from the San Francisco Standard, and it kind of goes over what the law has in it specifically, right? And let me get straight into it. Called Proposition M, the proposed tax would apply to all buildings with 3 or more units, with some exceptions, like those in need of repairs. Its proponents argue that it will incentivize landlords to fill empty units, pointing to a budget and legislative analyst report showing that 40,000 units were sitting empty in the city. But a report by the Comptroller's Office estimated that there are only about 4,000 units potentially affected by the new tax. Units exempted from the tax include single-family homes, duplexes, and units under construction, among other exemptions. Those subject to the tax would owe between $2,500 and $5,000 per vacant unit in the first year, rising up to $20,000 by the third year for every unit that has been empty for longer than 6 months. Most of those landlords would choose to simply pay the tax rather than lower rents or take other actions to fill their units, altogether generating $9 million dollars in its first year and 15.4 million dollars by 2026, according to the controller's office. So yeah, because they have so many exemptions in place, like for, if you own a single family home or a duplex, you're exempt. If you're doing repairs to your building, it's exempt. If your place is under construction, it's exempt. So what do you think that landlords who, are purposefully keeping their units empty, what do you think they're going to do? Okay, they're going to immediately start applying for work permits, or try to pretend like the place is under construction so that they can't be subject to this tax. I mean, it's cheaper to do that than pay the tax, or if you are subject to the tax and you're trying to keep your unit empty because it's under rent control and it costs you more money to rent it out than it does to to keep it full, then or to keep it empty, then you're just going to pay the fine. Okay, so yeah, this law isn't going to generate the kind of money that they think it will. It's not going to actually help with homelessness or housing affordability. And the only thing it is it's a feel-good measure that will end up punishing a few good landlords and getting them stuck in a system where, hey, I'm being fined for doing what I want to do with my property. So yeah, it's just another taking of your property rights. I'm not surprised this sort of thing is passing in San Francisco. But let me read a little bit more of this article here. Stephen Buss, director at Grow SF, called the number of units potentially affected by the tax laughably small. In its voter guide, the group argues that Prop M will neither incentivize owners to change their behavior nor raise a meaningful amount of money for affordable housing. Using new census data on vacancies, the analysts estimated that of the 4,000 units potentially subject to the tax, owners of around 250 units either might sell their unit or lower rents, altogether reducing housing prices by less than 0.1%. Others might change the timing of rental agreements to avoid paying the tax, since it only applies to units that sit vacant for more than 6 months. So yeah, basically what they're saying is a bunch of landlords are going to, figure out ways to work around the law, and even those that do end up paying, it's not going to make a 0.1% difference on the affordability of housing. So yeah, it's minuscule, it's pointless, and it's a stupid law, and I feel bad for the landlords that are gonna get caught up in it.